Hi, this time we will see a video on medical astrology. The idea is to explain you how by looking into your birth chart we are able to see in which part of your body you are good and in which parts you have some weaknesses. The objective of this video is to somehow explain you that there are ways to detect where you have possible health issues. Depends on your birth chart and how to detect them, and then from there you can try to improve and look for a healthy lifestyle. Indeed, medical astrology is a branch of Vedic astrology, or globally astrology, I would say. Various types of diseases and their causes can be related to planets and their influence on us. As we have seen in previous some of our previous videos on Vedic astrology, the planets and stars that are in this solar system can influence the beings on the earth, and this is how we are born, and that planetary positions are represented in your birth chart, and by looking into those planets in your birth charts, depending where they are sitting and who are influencing or aspecting on those planets, or the places where they are in your chart, you can detect what sort of healthiness you have or diseases you have to expect for. And all these facts depends on some specific houses in your birth chart. As you know, the birth chart has 12 houses. We have seen that, and each of those houses is representing some well-defined elements. As an example, the first house represents you and your leadership qualities, as well as some other elements. Equally, the second house is all about your family and your speech and the income you have to drive your family, right? So there are elements represented by different houses, and when it comes to medical astrology, there are some specific houses you need to look for in your birth chart to understand your strengths and weaknesses from health perspective. So here I'm showing how different houses are representing different parts of the body. I'm showing here the Rasi chart of Kala Purusha. Kala Purusha means the universe, and not you. Of course, we all have our own birth chart where you have your own lagnas and rasis, etc., etc. But I'm not showing that. I'm showing the chart of Kalapush. It's a similar chart. It's also a birth chart, but it is representing the universe and the fixed things out there, right? As an example, the lagna of Kalapush is always Aries, and Aries means Mersha Rashi, and then the second house of Kalapush is Taurus, for which Venus is the house lord, and then third house of the Kalapush is Gemini, and then you can follow from there all the way to the 12th house of Kalapush, which is Pisces or Mina house, right? And then on the right side, I'm showing which parts of the body represented by these houses. So the first house of Kala Purush, which is the Aries, Mesha house, represent head. The second house of Kala Purush, which is Taurus, represents face and neck. The third house of Kala Purush represent arms, which is the Miduna house, and then the fourth house of Kala Purush is chest and heart. Fifth house of Kala Purush is Leo house, which is representing stomach. Sixth house of Kala Purush is Virgo Kanya house, that is representing the hip region. And then you have to follow further down in your body, and you will see as an example, 10th house of Kala Purush is Mahara house, which is representing knees. And then finally the 12th house of Kala Purush is the Pieces house, which is the Meena house, which is representing feet. So you can see how Kala Purusha is structurally, logically showing the different parts it represents from head to feet. So how do you want to, the way you want to interpret this is basically you take your chart and see where your Lagna, Lord and Rasi houses are. Let's say if your chart is saying your Lagna is Leo, then you need to somehow be careful, because Leo Simha house is supposed to represent the stomach part of your body. So in case your Lagna is not strong in your birth chart, or your Lagna has any relationship with the sixth house, then you need to be careful and watch for some possible issues as related to stomach. So this is how you need to interpret your chart, right? So you have your own chart with everything related to your life, and then you have this Kala Purush, which is the fixed things. And then depending what Kala Purusha is supposed to represent, what part of the body, depending on your chart, you need to do some link, and this is how you can detect where you are weak and strong. We will see some further details later on. Now let's look at those few houses which can provide you some insights on your healthiness or diseases. The first house is obviously is part of those healthiness related houses, because it is representing your body, and it can highlight some of the health issues depending on how that house is in your birth chart. And then secondly, you need to look for the sixth house. We know that the sixth house generally represent the most important items represented by the sixth house is disease, enemies, and your debt. So that's why the sixth house is here, because it is representing diseases. And then the third house you need to watch for is the eighth house. Eighth house, as we said already many times, it is representing the longevity of you. So if you have a solid eighth house, then you might expect to live about 80 plus years or even more. But then as part of that very same house, you also have some sudden incidents or accidents, and in that sense it has to be also looked for detecting health issues in your birth chart. If your first house lord, the owner of the first house, I'm not talking about the planets that are sitting in, but I'm rather talking about the owner of the house. This concept of house and who is the owner of those different houses, uh, and all that information. If you don't understand, then please watch again the other videos on Vedic astrology. So the first house lord, when it is placed in quadrant or triangle, uh, or exalted or in its own sign, essentially, we've seen that how to detect a planet is in a good shape or not in our previous videos, and basically a planet is in a good shape if it is in a Trihona house from ascendant, or Kendra houses from ascendant. Kendra houses means uh, from ascendant means 1, 4, 7, and 10, and trigonal houses means 1, 5, and 9. So if the ascendant lord, the lord of the ascendant is placed in those houses, you can consider it in a good shape. And also, if the ascendant lord is in its own house, or in his house where it is exalted, then you can consider globally the first house of your chart is solid. That means that person remains healthy. In the opposite, when this is not the case, you have to consider the first house is weak, and you need to be careful on some areas of your body that we will see later on, depending on what planet representing your first house. If Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, or Venus are the lord of sixth house, so we've seen that the sixth house is somehow part of a house group which are meant to give bad elements to you, right? Because when we looked into what houses are representing what items, we've seen that we clustered them into four categories, and one of those categories are representing the things that no one wants in their life, right? Like diseases, like death, other problems, like accidents, etc., etc. So sixth house is one of those not so good houses, and when in your birth chart the positive energy planets like Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus are the lord of your sixth house, then, or any positive planets expecting casting that energy, their energy to that house, then you have to be careful. Then you could ask why positive energy casting onto those houses is supposed to bring diseases. So that's the logic of the astrology, right? So in those bad houses, evil houses like 6, 8, and 12, it's better that negative planets are sitting in, or negative planets are casting energy. Uh, so if those positive planets like Jupiter, Venus, Mercury, and Moon are casting energy, then those those houses will be more activated, and in that sense, as it is representing diseases would also evolve and be prominent in your life. And also you need to look at another element, which is about the relationship of your sixth house lord and the first house lords, if any, right? because we know that the planets sometimes conjunct together. They might be sitting even more than even three, four, sometimes even five planets might be sitting in a single house, depending when you are born, etc., etc. Right? So in that sense, if you have any relationship between the first house and sixth house, or first house lord and sixth house lords, then you have to also be careful and make sure you have understood some further weaknesses in your body, because sixth house lord, whoever represents the sixth house, if that lord is somehow, that planet is somehow sitting in your first house, then it will obviously bring some negative things like diseases to your body. Looking concretely at some of those origins of diseases, you can say that both Lagna and the first house lords are, if they are in any of those inauspicious houses, it could be one of the origin for diseases for you. And we know what are the inauspicious houses. Basically, the house 6, 8, and 12 are considered as inauspicious houses. The sixth house is the which has the highest inauspiciousness, so highly bad, and then followed by the eighth house, and then the 12th house only comes as the third place. That means 12th house is not that bad compared to the sixth house. So whenever your Lagna Lord is sitting, both Lagna and your and or first house Lord is sitting in one of those inauspicious house, it's clearly an indicator for diseases for you. And then the second origin is around the moon being the element representing your mind. So a weak moon could also be the origin for diseases. Moon can be progressive or regressive over a month, and we call it the progressive moon as waxing moon, and then regressive moon as waning moon. So here the waning moon, the regressive moon, can also somehow indicate some diseases. And also, if there are some malefic planets placed in the moon sign, that means in your Rasi house, wherever moon is placed in your birth chart, we said that is your Rasi house. And if in that house you have any of those negative planets, like Saturn, Mars, Rahu, and Ketu, those two shadow planets we've seen, and also Sun. If you have those natural negative planets into your moon sign, then you need to also be careful. And the other fact you need to also look at is that if the malefic planets, Saturn, Mars, Rahu, and Ketu, and you can also put Sun in that very same bucket, are stronger than other naturally good planets like Jupiter and Venus, then you need to also be alerted around health issues, right? Because no matter what your ascendant is, the positive planets are supposed to cast positive energy and give some good things to you, and negative planets are supposed to give negative energy and consequently some health issues, right? So if those negative planets are stronger than positive planets globally in your chart, then it's also an indicator you should not ignore. And the other one is around the relationship between the two evil houses, which are sixth and eighth. So, in case any relations between your ascendant and the eighth house, uh, or equally your ascendant or first lord and first house and sixth house, you need to be alerted. It could be either the first house lord is sitting in the eighth house, or eighth house lord is sitting in your first house, or the lord of your first house and the lord of eighth house are casting energy mutually. So no matter what sort of relation, there should be some indicators around diseases, right? So this is how you need to read. Of course, depending on how all these different elements are coming together, the diseases could be from a minor cold to a major accident causing really the death, right? So that's why don't make judgment calls. I just wanted to give some tips how to look for quick detections, and then you need to, if you detect any of those, then you might have to talk to a professional astrologer to understand a bit better, because even if you have some of these weaknesses, they might not get activated if you have a bit of luck, because we said that okay, we all have our birth charts and different planetary positions, but then you have also a concept of planet period, so planet influencing period, which are somehow covering 120 years. So I am undergoing Venice periods. It has started maybe 15 years ago, and it has to still go 5 more years. So 20 years of my life, starting on a particular date, are supposed to be influenced by Venus, globally speaking, right? So in case Venus has some weaknesses or some strength, as we are talking about health issues, let's talk about weaknesses. Those weaknesses uh, get activated in that period we call dasha sub period or sub period. So that's why, even if you detect, don't be afraid, and there are professional people who can guide through and give some either some good news or some ways to remediate your issues. Here I'm going to repeat some of the things I said in the previous slide. Again, a slide explaining how diseases are determined. We've already seen the sixth house lord is representing diseases, but then depending who that lord is, which planet that is representing your sixth house, it will give diseases according to its nature, right? Every planet has its nature. Like sun is all about heat, uh, Saturn is all about long lasting. Maybe if your sixth house lord is Saturn, then maybe your disease will be taking ages to recover, etc., etc. So we need to also watch out for the nature of the planet of your sixth house lord, and then you need to also look at the nature of the planet that is actually sitting, if any, on your sixth house. It can also give some diseases according to its nature. As an example, if I have moon in my sixth house, then moon is all about cold. Moon is all about water. So that means maybe I will get frequent flus or cold as part of that planetary positioning in the sixth house, right? And then we also briefly discuss about uh, uh, influencing period, this famous 120 years lifetime divided by planet influence. Like I said, Venus is supposed to own 20 years of your lifetime, but it will not come to all of us, and as we all not all live up to 220 years. So depending on which planetary period you are, it can also influence and give some hints. So the planet that makes a connection with the Lord of the sixth house gives diseases only in its period, influencing period and sub-period. As an example, if my sixth lord is Mars and Venus is sitting with Mars in my birth chart, or Mars is casting or expecting my Venus, and if I'm currently undergoing Venus Dasha this period of 20 years, then during that particular period you have also sub-periods. Let's don't get into that level of detail, but globally in that period, that's where I have to be careful about diseases related to Venus, and we will see what sort of diseases Venus could come, right? So just to say that if any planet sitting in your sixth house or connecting with your sixth house lords, then diseases related to that planet will only come during its influencing period in your lifetime. Um, the other than that, when such a planet placed uh, in a species house or enemy house, then it is becoming more powerful, and also you need to look for the aspects in those your sixth house lord that we already said a few times. Now let's look at how each planet is representing a set of diseases, starting with Sun. Sun is representing, generally speaking, diseases related to head. It is also representing diseases related to one's general strength, because Sun is somehow representing the first house of Kalapusha's chart. Kalapusha's chart is the universal chart, and where we said Lagna is Aries house, Mesha Rashi, and that Mesha Rashi is representing the head part of the body. In that sense, any diseases related to any disease related to head are put under Sun, but then Sun is also representing other diseases, as I'm stating here. There are issues as related to bone, some issues as related to stomach, like ulcer or stomach burning, or other abdominal diseases are also represented by Sun. And then looking at Saturn, generally speaking, Saturn is representing In the Kala Purusha, Saturn houses are Makaram and Kumbham. In the Kala Purusha's chart, the universal chart, it is representing 10,000 and 11 house, and which are related to everything between the knee and the ankles. So anything related to any diseases related to that part is essentially represented by Saturn. And Saturn is also, so essentially all the people when they have pains in their knees or ankles are somehow related to Saturn. And in addition to these parts, Saturn is also generally representing your skin, and also the reason for diseases like cough, asthma type of diseases. Then looking at Mars. Mars is the red planet, fiery planet, we said in our Vedic astrology videos, and naturally it is representing your blood being red. So any issues, any diseases related to blood should be put under Mars. So typically blood pressure, blood cancer, anything related to tumors are also put under Mars. Then you have Rahu Ketu. Rahu is the shadow planet, one of those two shadow planets we said. North node is the Rahu, and Rahu is not something visible. It's rather a shadow, but still we said it is considered as one of those planets when we consider birth chart and Vedic astrology. And then in the Rahu context, it's generally representing viruses. We've been going through this painful COVID virus from 2019, and typically Rahu is representing these kind of popular viruses or general viruses impacting our lives. So yeah, so Rahu is essentially related to virus type of issues, and Rahu is also toxic related issues, or poison related issues. Poison could be a real poison that someone took and having some related diseases, or it could also be toxics like when someone smoke, then he is injecting some toxins into his body, and which is then becoming or creating diseases to that person, right? So these are represented by Rahu. Rahu is also representing uh, um, uh, things like stomach worm. Rahu is a serpent. Is a serpent. So any diseases related to worms, like stomach worms, are also put under Rahu. Other than that, Rahu is also a kind of mentally disturbing planet. If Rahu is not well positioned in your birth chart, you have some mental illness related to Rahu. So whoever that has, as an example, Rahu sitting next to the moon, moon being the planet representing your mind, when it is conjunct with Rahu, then you have some mental trauma or mental restless type of diseases you can expect. And then Kedu is more related to diseases around allergies. and Ketu is also uh, some diseases related to non-activity. If you don't do sports and you are becoming fat, and then being fat is not necessarily an indicator of disease, but then being fat, it could also create some general unhealthy type of situations which are created by Ketu like planet. Following that planet order, now let's look at what diseases are represented by Jupiter. Jupiter being a positive energy planet, the diseases it brings are rather, I wouldn't say not harmful, but rather a bit painless compared to some other negative planets like Rahu or Saturn. But still, Jupiter also could bring diseases if it is not well placed in your birth chart. Jupiter related issues are mainly in the Kala Push. Jupiter's houses are represented by Dhanus house and also Meena house, the Kalapurusha's ninth and 12th house. So when you look at Kalapurusha's image here, Dhanus representing ticks and Meena is representing feet. So diseases related to feet and ticks are generally under Jupiter, and in addition to that, uh, you have also some diseases related to memory. Here, the memory loss is meant is also somehow stated as a disease. Jupiter being the planet of knowledge and wisdom, if it is not well positioned, or if it is positioned as an example in your sixth house, it will somehow give this kind of diseases to the related person. Then moon is about in the Kalapurusha's chart. Moon is represented by Kadaharasi house, and Kadaham is everything related to chest and heart. So the heart attacks or chest pains or some deep coughs are represented by moon, and moon is also a watery sign because Cancer is a watery sign, and that means diseases related to water elements are also put under the moon. Typically, the diabetes or nasal diseases are also put under moon, and moon is also, as we said, it's representing mind. So here also, even without mixing with other back planets like Rahu, if it is moon is seated alone and but weak, then you can also think about some mental distress like diseases under the moon, and also moon being a watery planet, any diseases related to urinary disorders are also somehow related to moon. Now looking at Venus, Venus is the beauty, the planet of beauty, we say. But then in the Kala Purusha, the Venus houses are Rishabham, which is the face and neck, and then the second Venus house is Tulam. It's showing parts like penis. So whenever Venus becomes the origin for diseases in a chart, the diseases are related to this, right? As an example, you can take you have any disease related to your penis or other or the sexual organ, that kind of diseases are put under Venus, and that's why again the urinary and occult diseases are put under Venus. Uh, Other than that, you have diseases. Here we are also putting impotence as a disease. It's not a disease per se, but it's still a health issue or health weakness. I would rather say like this, and it is Venus, because Venus is also representing the married life, bed pleasures. So in that sense, impotence is also put under Venus. And there are obviously cancer type of diseases are somehow almost put in each and every under each and every planet, but then you need to take cancer on a specific organ, and then this is how you need to relate to Venus. As an example, if you have any uterus related cancer, then that would be highly under Venus than any other planet, right? Then let's look at the last planet, Mercury. Mercury, Buddhan is representing also two houses in the chart. Buddhan represent Midunam. Midunam it's related to arms in the Kala Purusha's chart, and also the other house it is representing is Kanya. Kanya is around the hip region, right? So any diseases related to these areas are represented by Mercury, and Mercury is also it's also a planet representing speech. So we said it is part of the speech is highly represented by Mercury. Whoever that is a great public speaker or presenter, then he must be having a good Mercury in his chart. But then if that Mercury is weak, then you can consider issues like speech defects as part of Mercury. And Mercury is also representing somehow anorexia, and also some other diseases like oral diseases, losing voices, etc., etc. And Mercury also a planet of knowledge. There's a difference between Jupiter and Mercury. I don't remember if I mentioned that in any of my previous videos. Basically, Jupiter it's the knowledge or wisdom, and versus Mercury is the intelligence you gathered because of your studies, right? One is the wisdom like knowledge, another one is the practical intelligence you have to you have to have for work or for to live in this world, practical knowledge. In that sense, any diseases related to or any weaknesses related to that could be put under Mercury. For example, if your IQ is it's below the minimum required, then you must be highly struggling to follow your studies, right? And that kind of weaknesses is clearly represented by Mercury. Let's now quickly look at an example. So I'm giving a chart here of someone currently living in India. So if you look at when you look at this chart, his ascendant is in Miduna Rashi, which is owned by Mercury planet. So the owner of this his ascendant house is Mercury. You don't have any planets sitting in this ascendant house, but when you look at the Mercury planet itself, it is sitting in the Meena Rashi, 10th house from the ascendant. But then this is also the place where Mercury is losing completely its energy. We call it a debilitation house. So in that sense, ascendant debilitating is not good and could be seen as a sign of having possibly some diseases or being generally weak from the body perspective. But then some experts might say that we need to further look into this chart and bring in some other concepts like Nishabanga. Nishabanga means the ways a planet recuperate some of its lost energy, and there are many conditions behind this Nishabanga. And here in this chart, at least there are two conditions. One is the fact that Jupiter and Mercury are exchanging their house ownership. In that sense, Mercury can hope to get back some of the lost energy. And the other concept is due to the fact that Venus is sitting with Mercury, and Venus here is exalted, meaning Venus in this chart is in his highest level of energy. So in that sense, Venus could also give some energy to Mercury, and Venus is one of the friend of Mercury. So there are a few conditions there that show that somewhat Mercury is managed is getting back some lost energy. So overall, I would say the Lagna load here is not great, not bad. It's in the middle. Then if you look at the sixth house for this ascendant for this person is Scorpio. Uh, Scorpio house, hope Scorpio's owner is Mars. Mars is quite well placed in Simha Rashi. Leo is the owner of Simha Rashi and is a friend of Mars. So Mars is comfortably sitting in Leo's house, and also more importantly, it is aspecting one of its aspects goes to Scorpio, its own house. So that in that sense, uh, the sixth house in this chart is strengthened and it's quite good. So that means Mars being a negative planet owning the sixth house with some good strength. That means this chart is less prone to diseases. So that's a positive thing. Then if you look at the eighth house lord here is Saturn. The house is Capricorn, 8 from the Lagna, and the owner is Saturn, and Saturn is sitting in his second its own house. So that means Saturn is also placed in a way he can do whatever he is supposed to do in this chart. He can do fully whatever he has to do. The one thing we need to be careful. Two things we need to be careful. One is Saturn being a negative planet, owner of many negative items. This person will have all the Saturn things done properly, means bad things done also properly on time. And the second thing is Mars is aspecting also Saturn. So Mars being one of the enemies of Saturn. Mars can also bring some negativity onto this eighth house lord. So here you need to watch for all the diseases and health problems or weaknesses we discussed related to Mars and Saturn, and be careful. And the 12th house, we don't need to discuss too much, because we said that the 12th house is the house that we need to consider less compared to others, like 6th and 8th. But still, you can see Rahu is sitting there, exactly like Ketu is sitting in the 6th house. Rahu is sitting in the 12th house, so you still need to watch some health related items related to Rahu and Ketu. And also below this chart I'm giving the detail of the dasha system. As I said, each of us has to go through some planet influencing periods during the course of our life, and here I am stating the different planetary influencing periods for this person. So currently this person is going through Rahu influencing period since 2008 until 2026. So during this period, any issues related to Rahu could be prominent. So that's why you have to read the chart globally, understand what planets and where things are weak, and then you need to also put that in perspective to the influencing period, so that you know during this and that period this and that planets related issues or weaknesses will be prominent in your life. So there currently Rahu sitting in the 12th house, not that bad, and he is sitting together with the positive planet. So there I think nothing much to worry around Rahu. Where things would be really be to be careful is the Saturn period. So it's after starting from 2042, Saturn being the owner of eighth house, and Saturn being the planet representing the life, and Saturn is also the planet behind a lot of um, not bad things for human. I think during that period, this person has to be careful things related to Saturn and due to the Mars aspect on Saturn. So this is basically how you can quickly spot some major issues or weaknesses in your chart, and then the way to correct, maybe in another video we will see what if in case of a weak planet, what things to be done to put us on the safer side. Yeah.